Okay, we're back and we're waiting. Had a phone call that I had to take care of, and then realized that I was like 3-4 minutes late. So we're currently waiting. We're currently waiting right now for this one to start. This one's just going to be talking about Android and all the things that we need to know about it. So reminders on. Looks like these are the guys on the panel and what's new in Android. So they're going to go more in depth of what's new in Android. So in this keynote, Chet Haas, Dan Sandler, and Romain Guy discuss the latest Android features and enhancements for developers. So it is more of just like them talking to developers directly. So this is going to premiere on the Google I/O page here in a few minutes, about 10 more minutes, and we're going to listen to see what new features will be in Android 12. So yeah, the keynote stuff already passed. If you're here for the keynote where the CEO of Google gets on stage and talks and all that other stuff, that already streamed already. You guys can check the replay out on that. It's pretty long. If you want to get to the point where the keynote actually starts, skip into I want to say 30 minutes into the live stream, and you'll get to where the keynote starts. But this one, just waiting for these guys to kick it off. They got a learning lab too and a community lounge. So that's actually pretty cool. I don't know if you guys hear my son. Doesn't sound like he's actually in school. Sounds like he's playing games with his friends online. That's not good. Anyways, what's going on, y'all? Let's see. Ray was in here way earlier at 12:47 p.m. He's like, "What's up?" Not technically back again, Ray. I don't know if he came back right now, but yeah. Not. Anyways, we're just waiting. Play the waiting game. 9 minutes left until it starts. Now, I'm actually going to be watching this through the Google I/O page itself and not through the YouTube channel. So, we'll see what's new. Besides what they had talked about in the keynote. The I/O adventure is open. Explore now. I don't want to explore it just now. I'll explore it later. Let me exit this out. There we go. I hope I'm able to actually full screen this. That's actually pretty cool. It's only a half hour for this one. It's only a half hour long. They don't give too much away. So as you're coming in, feel free to say hi, say what's up, what's going on. See how things is going. I got about 8 minutes left. Until then, so a couple of things that we didn't see at the keynote. No hardware launch at the keynote at all whatsoever. No talk of the Pixel Buds A. No talks of the Pixel 5a. No talks of the Pixel Watch. No talks of the GS101 chip. No talks of the Pixel 6. No talk of hardware at all whatsoever. So this Google I/O stays true to exactly what it is. Software Developers Conference. It talks about a lot of the things that's going on with the different software and projects that Google's currently working on. They did unveil their quantum computing campus and gave a little brief introduction to what quantum computing is. We did get to see a lot of changes in the software for Google Photos, how it could enhance the photos based on a person's ethnicity to kind of really bring out like the natural likeness and tones of their skin color to give a better representation in the photo of a person of color than of not, So they did talk about that. I talked about Project Starline, a more in-depth kind of like a 3D experience with the video communication. I thought that was actually a nice touch on that. They dabbled a little bit more with AI growth, but they didn't really explain. Because in the very beginning of the keynote, in the pre-show, they had a band play 3 songs. And they had the Blob Opera, which is what they're called, supporting it. So the AI pretty much bounced off the singer's voice and tones and mimic them, showcasing what the like how far advanced the AI has come. That the AI can actually act as backup vocals to somebody. It was kind of funny. It was kind of cool. So that all that happened in the main keynote event of Google I/O. I'm sorry, like I was like 4 minutes late starting this live stream, so like I had to hurry up and get it off and then run on here and get it started, or I would lose the connection to Facebook. So I'm sorry, but I'm glad you're here to hang out. This is going to be the developer, the developer keynote. So the people behind the scenes working on Android are going to go more in depth about Android and its features. So yeah, they'll probably talk about the user interface overhaul and stuff like that, which is like the exciting parts of it. But then they're also going to go more. They're going to dive more into code and stuff like that too as well. Yeah, so we got about like 5 minutes to kill until it starts. And then I will open the screen up. What's up, Gene? Are you watching the other keynotes? Did you watch the last keynote? Because I skipped that one. Okay, well, enjoy. You can watch if you want, or just like leave it on so you can listen to what they say. Well, what'd you think about it? I already know that some people are going to be like making YouTube videos about Google I/O, and they're going to say that it wasn't really all that exciting. Because trust me, I'm not feeling all that excited about it, except for Android 12 and some of the smaller things that were talked about. I mean, yeah, there was plenty to be excited for on the software side of things. I was just, I guess, more hoping to see like the Pixel 5a. Oh yeah, they did it outside. I saw the part where they're updating Google Maps. Yeah, that's another thing too. Good thing that you brought that up, because there was so much to talk about when it came to the main keynote. So one of the things that is going to be beneficial is that Google Maps is getting that the AI upgrade to it to be more intuitive, right? So like, I know this weekend my babe's traveling to San Diego with her friends, and so if that was implemented in Google Maps, it would actually give them the more fuel efficient way of getting to San Diego. Since now that it's able to map out the terrain and kind of know, like, stress points, like where you're going to accelerate more and burn more gas or whatever. So it's going to find you like the best fuel efficient route, the best, timed route. So like one that will get you there faster, one that will have less traffic, one that would have, less stops. Maps is getting so much smarter, and I think that's going to be a good thing. I thought it was great. It was great that they did these types of necessary updates to Google Maps. I think that was like pretty cool. Which, by the end of this week, Friday, I'm actually going to do like an entire live stream that encompasses everything. So I'm going to have to make notes of plot points that I want to talk about, just kind of stick them up here on the wall so I have them for notes, so I can, put all this together, like constructed all of it together to be in a good time format. To be able to touch base on a lot of the things that they talked about at the keynote, because I am going to rewatch the keynote again just to make sure that I didn't miss anything. And then I'll talk about it Friday. So that'll be Friday's podcast to definitely talk about it. Yeah, the main screen on Android devices will be looking great with Android 12, and that will be safer and more security features with Android 12. They talked about that. Yeah, I know. Yeah, security features, I mean, it's just like... Yeah, they got busted using personalized data to create an enriched advertisement experience. So now they say they don't do that anymore. Honestly, I feel like that Made by Google should be moved from October to June. Have I/O in May, have Made by Google event in June. That would be perfect. And then it won't be shadowed by the iPhone's launch and all that other stuff. Right. Plus, it'll be closer. So like you'll have Samsung have the spring launch for the Galaxy S, Google with the summer launch of the Pixel, and then Apple can have the fall area, which would be great for us, because if the Pixel launches in June, 6 months from then will be the holiday sales. So it would make sense to radically reduce the amount of a newer Pixel. So that's gonna be pretty cool. Can't wait for them to talk about the new features of Chrome OS tomorrow. Yeah, that's good. That's gonna be a good one. I don't know if I'm gonna stream that one. I might stream that one just because it pertains to my Pixel book, and definitely wanna keep that up to date. So let's widescreen this, and let's see. Premiere should begin shortly. Let me refresh this page because it's already 1:30. It should have started already. There we go. Oh yeah, we can full screen it. Here we go. Okay, that was just absolutely weird. Why'd you keep buffering? You know what? I'll lower that for right now. That's pretty loud. Sorry if I blew your speakers, everybody. That's pretty loud. I'll bring the volume back up once the developers are back on. So this keynote is pre-recorded. They pre-recorded all these. The main keynote was done live. That little Premiere beat. It's kind of funny. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Now my Wi-Fi wants to act up. What the hell?
Hi, and welcome to What's New in Android, the annual talk we give at Google I/O a little bit differently. Instead of giving it on stage to a live audience this year, we thought we would invite you into the intimacy of our own homes and just have a conversation with you instead. I'm Chet Haas on the developer relations team.
Oh, and I'm here. Sorry, this is Dan Sandler from the Android System UI team.
That was just a preview of what this entire talk is going to be like.
That's right. It's going to be just ironclad timings front to back.
And I'm Romangi from the Android Toolkit team.
And today we're going to talk about everything going on in the Android unit. Well, a bunch of stuff going on in the Android universe, starting with, so we have this letter associated with the release, and every year
the
question is, what does that letter stand for? And I'm here to tell you, we are here to tell you that it stands for Android 12. I'm sorry, we're engineers, we deal with numbers, and we better get used to it. So let's talk about Android 12, starting with Romain. You wanted to talk about your favorite feature?
Yeah, I want to talk about I think the best thing we've done in this release. Some of you may have noticed that in the Android Developer Preview 1 of Android 12, we've deprecated the deprecated annotation. And I'm extremely happy to tell you that we've undeprecated the deprecated annotation after seeing your feedback. What really happened was there was a bug in our documentation generation script, and it saw the deprecated annotation being used in the documentation, and so marked the class deprecated. So that's fixed.
I think this is a really good example of why we do these preview releases and why the entire Android ecosystem benefits from doing several of these preview releases before we're actually done with the release. So welcome to the current preview release of Android 12. And Dan, you want to tell us about one of the bigger elements of this release?
Thanks, Chet. So Android 12, it's our biggest overhaul to the Android user interface since the last biggest overhaul to the Android user interface. It's actually really pretty big. We dropped some hints about this in the first developer preview and the second developer preview. Some of you may have found some more of those hints in the second developer preview than we intended to leave in there. Good job. Some others may have found builds, off the back of trucks who really, really have to start locking the doors. on those trucks. There's a lot more to show you in beta 1. Hopefully in the keynote, you got to see some of the new hotness that's not even in the developer previews, not even in beta 1 yet, that's coming later. Let's talk a little bit about color. So every Android device has a very basic color scheme, right? In the device default.
I am sorry, my internet is going up and down. If it's freezing, I'm sorry.
Might be a particular color of teal, and on Pixel devices might be a color of blue, and so forth. And if you, as an app developer, wanted to sort of harmonize with that color, you can just use theme device default, or more recently, theme device default day-night, which allows you to adapt to light theme and dark theme as the user chooses it. In Android 12, we expanded that palette considerably. And all the system services use it and harmonize together. You can see in screenshots, the lock screen, home screen, notifications, settings are all using this much richer palette and are harmonized together.
Yes, it looks a lot more,
on Pixel devices,
cleaner.
We're going to go a step further and select this palette automatically based on your wallpaper. Other devices may do a different thing, but this idea of a much richer, broader system palette that you can access with device default is now a part of Android 12.
More importantly, that means you can customize your device, right? By choosing a wallpaper, you can change the mood of your own device throughout the entire UI.
Absolutely. And again, other OEMs may take this in a different direction. The API service for you as a developer, if you want to harmonize, if you want to get in on this color scheme, is, first of all, device default is here for you. It'll automatically pick up whatever the current foreground, background, accent color is that comes from that color palette. But if you want to go beyond device default, we've actually added a very complex and rich palette of 5 colors, 2 neutrals, and 3 accent colors, and then the entire 12 shades of the material color numbering scheme, everything from 0 to 1000. This means that you as an app developer can use, and this is public API for these resources, to grab Android color system accent 2800 and get a basically index into this comprehensive color palette that the whole device is using and use it in lots of different subtle shades.
You know, Dan, it reminds me of an old video game.
It's kind of overwhelming for him to project that out for everybody.
56 colors that are predefined by the system.
That's true, but we've also brought in another
Big John, what's
feature
going on?
from those old consoles, which is that if your app crashes, you can just blow on the contact to reboot it. So that's a nice new feature too. Hey, let's talk about widgets.
Yes.
Don't call it a comeback. They've been here for years, and users love them. I saw a study recently that 84% of Android users have at least one widget on their home screen.
I got a bunch of widgets on my home screen. What you talking about, bro?
Widgets installed in their home screens. But your widget, and maybe some of ours, might look like they haven't gotten a lot of love recently in terms of updating the visual design. So we've done a lot of work in Android 12 to make widgets an even more delightful experience. We've done some work in the system UI to make selecting widgets a lot easier. There's a better widget picker. You can search for widgets and things like that. We've removed the required configuration step when the user places a widget. So again, that whole process is streamlined. But for you, the developer, to update your widgets to the new styles, all that stuff I described earlier about colors, all that color palette stuff, you can use inside your widget layouts as well, so that they harmonize perfectly with the rest of the system UI and just look really good.
Sick as hell, man.
And there's one more thing. I don't even want to spoil it. There's a whole new API to construct these same remote views widgets that are backwards compatible to, like, what, Cupcake. There's a whole new API that you can use to build these widgets in a new way. I don't want to spoil it here. There's an IO talk called Refreshing Widgets that I want you to go watch. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about launch animations. One of the jankiest things about the Android experience can be app cold start. When the system doesn't already have a screenshot of your app's current state to animate up, you launch the app and you see like a hollow gradient, maybe you see a gingerbread title bar. It's real bad. So in Android 12, one of the things that we're doing is adding a new splash screen and animation that looks great for every app. As a baseline, you have to do nothing to get this. Every app will get a nice new zoom in animation that highlights your app's icon, zooming it up from the launcher if necessary.
So even like Facebook and
possible,
Snapchat and such.
While your app is loading its main layout in the background.
So that's cool.
And
so,
if this animation doesn't meet your needs, you can substitute yours, or you can customize the system version. You can specify an animated vector drawable for your app icon, so you can actually get an animated build of your app's icon zooming around or unfolding or whatever it wants to do. You can call activity get splash screen to modify properties of the animation itself, the duration, the color of the screen, and things like that. The launch animations are going to look really good. We're excited for you to try it.
So Dan, if an application or a developer has their own custom splash screen experience right now, and now we're introducing this new platform and system capability overall, like what are they supposed to do something to tune into this or to customize the thing that they have?
You can continue to use the one that you've got. The nice thing about the system one is it's ready immediately, whereas yours, you have to wait for your app process to start and load all your libraries and things like that. So for the best possible experience, the system one is going to give you everything everything the user wants to see, which is an animation that starts immediately and looks really good. But again, you can plug into it in all these different ways, and if necessary, even substitute your own. Okay, you knew this was coming. Let's talk about notifications. I'm going to keep this short and sweet, like the best notifications. 2 points I wanted to talk about. One is we've redesigned all the templates, which I know at this point I should just let you know when we don't redesign the templates. That would probably be shorter.
I can reuse the same slide from IO that we've been using for the past, 8 or 9 years in a row, and it could say the same thing. By the way, we've redesigned the templates. So
I think not just the slides, we could just reuse what Dan said a few years ago.
we could just reuse Dan overall.
It would have saved me a lot of time.
Dan 1.0.
I could have taken a vacation day. Those of you who've been on this journey with us for a few years might notice some familiar design elements from previous releases coming back, but we've updated those to match the new style, the new material next, color palettes and themes, typography, even the corner rounding has changed. Yeah. If you as a developer are using the standard templates, you know that things are going to look great because you don't have to do anything. The API takes care of adapting it to the new style. But if you've been carefully imitating the templates using your own custom remote views, they're going to look wrong again, and you're going to have a lot of work to do. In fact, in this release, you're going to have more work to do than you did in the last one because we've actually fully deprecated fully custom remote views. You can still use the decorated custom template style where you specify just a small amount of remote views layout to apply within the standard system decor, but we need to get away from this loop of developers having to reconstruct, carefully piece together the new templates every year and for every device as well. So fully custom remote views don't work as expected anymore. They will actually get moved into the decorated custom view style. And so you'll get the system decor around it, which will look correct, but you'll need to change what you put inside to make sure that it works well in that context. Okay, the number 2 thing about notifications I wanted to bring to your attention is trampolines. Continuing with our theme of what are the jankiest parts of Android, you've probably had this experience as a user where you tap on a notification and then the shade closes and then nothing seems to happen for a few seconds. That's because the app has used, instead of launching an activity directly from that notification, they've sent a broadcast or kicked off a service so that they can do some other work in the background, maybe centralize metrics, or just have a single entry point for all their notifications before then starting an activity from the background. We call that a trampoline, and it introduces this huge gap where it seems like the phone is just non-responsive. It's measurable as latency. And we can't generate a nice animation from the notification to your activity when those two things aren't directly linked. So now you can't do it. Once your app starts targeting S, you as a developer must start an activity from the content intent of your notification. Otherwise, nothing will happen. The notification won't work. So trampolines can't do it anymore.
Yay!
I want to talk briefly about toasts, which we almost never talk about. Toasts, those little pop-up gray boxes at the bottom of the screen that you're not even sure exactly which app is sending you a message. We updated those, again, for Material Next. We took this opportunity to add attribution, to add the icon of the app that was sending the toast. So now the user knows, oh, that was my browser telling me that it had downloaded a thing, or Gmail telling me that it had archived a message or something like that. You now know where that app is coming, which app that toast is coming from. We've also reduced the amount of text that you can put in a toast, so please keep it short. If you have more than just 1 or 2 very short lines of text to communicate to the user, that's what a notification is for. Use a notification. And then finally, we've added some rate limiting to toast. Actually, I think we did this in an earlier release, but it's still there, and it's worth mentioning as long as we're talking about toasts. It's common for the user to get into a situation where they've got like a loop of like 50 toasts stacked on top of each other. That you have to wait for each one to time out before you can see the next one, and then just stuck at the bottom of your screen, and it's really, really annoying. So now we've capped that number of toasts that each app can have outstanding at any given time, and it's quite a small number.
Toast, the bread and butter of the system UI of Android. Can we make sure that we call that where they stack up on each other? That's like a toast rack. I think that's the phrase for it.
I think loaf is what
loaf is. Yes. All right.
All right, something else that we've done to improve the visual quality of Android is to improve picture-in-picture.
Yes.
So until now, when the user was going back to the home screen using the swipe up to home gesture, the system had to wait for that transition to finish before it could animate the transition to picture-in-picture from your app, which means it was very difficult for your application to control this experience. Now with Android 12, we have APIs where you can tell us ahead of time that's what you want to happen. So the system can neatly choreograph the animation of all those different windows to deliver a much better experience. In the same vein,
every little bit counts. That's what's going to make it look smoother.
Seamless resizing when you resize it.
A lot of the downtime
this works great
in transitioning from things has been eliminated.
Every frame of the resize animation, we resize the content. Obviously, that works great for a video, but not so much for UI. So there's a new API in Android 12 where you can use a crossfade instead that will work a lot better for any kind of content that's not as simple as a video.
Particularly for UI elements, I think that really works well. That stretching your UI in weird ways doesn't look great, but a crossfade for UI layouts, much better.
So Dan said that this is the biggest visual change that we've made since Android 5.0. What's great for us as engineers that it gave us the opportunity to add new features that we've been requesting for many, many, many years. And one of them is the ability to blur content. So we have a new API on view called Set Render Effect. And you can use it on any view. Here, I have an example where I'm applying the blur on an image view, but again, it will work with anything, and it works in real time. Much easier than trying to do it yourself. Now, of course, we didn't stop at views themselves. You can use blur in other places as well. You can blur what's behind your window content, or you can blur what's outside of your window content. You can do this from your theme, as you can see on screen, or you can do this programmatically using the Window Manager API. So you can control the blur differently on views, behind the window content, and outside of the window content. Interestingly, blur is something that actually worked in the very first version of Android, because our first phone, the T-Mobile G1, had a special piece of hardware that could blur windows at composition time. But that was specific to that device, so it's kind of stopped working afterwards, and it became just a dim behind what we already know today.
Yeah, we changed that one to dim window, which is what people have been using since, and we kind of avoided enabling blur for years because it was really taxing on the system, right? You don't want to make it really easy for developers to tie themselves in knots by enabling features that basically bring the device to its knees. But I think the increase in CPU and GPU power means that now we can actually start to do some of this stuff.
Well, not only that, but it wasn't part of our visual language. And with the big refresh that we're doing, like we decided that blur was a better fit. So that's why we're introducing it again. Speaking of better fit, so we met your design. We introduced this ripple effect. Anytime you have a tappable area, like a list item or a button, you see this really nice ripple animation. So we're refreshing this animation to add more subtlety to it, or it's not that subtle actually. So there's a new sparkle effect that's part of the ripple, and it's going to be enabled by default everywhere. So you don't need to do anything in your application. And if you see this effect, like you're not doing anything wrong, we're turning that on your behalf. It won't impact your application in any way. It's completely compatible with the existing design, but that's part of the new visual language of Android 12.
Nice.
Another effect that we're adding to Android 12 and that we're turning on by default is a new version of what we call the edge effect. So in Gingerbread, we added an edge effect called the glow. Whenever you reach the end of a scrolling container,
I remember that.
A fling or a scroll, we would like release this burst of energy in the form of a glow coming from the top or the bottom of the container. But this effect hasn't really changed since Gingerbread. And since we were redesigning the whole system for Android 12, we decided that it was time for a new fresh coat of paint. So now we're doing a stretch. So it feels more organic, it feels more natural. Again, we're going to turn this on by default everywhere. So as opposed to the ripple, this one may affect
I would prefer for them to bring the glow back. That was pretty cool.
What we do is that we retarget all the rendering into an external texture, which means you're not rendering directly into the window anymore. So if you're using things like advanced blend modes, that might change the way your application look like. We have APIs to let you control this effect, or you can just redesign your application or work around it in many ways. We'll probably talk more about that in the coming months.
I was just going to say, it makes getting to the end of your inbox data list a stretch goal.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I'm dying to say that joke, chat.
That's such a bad joke.
I was simply going to say that for the other way that you can, the other way that this might be a challenge that developers need to work out is if you are currently implementing your scroll by having multiple different views on screen at the same time, kind of tracking the same scroll Y, only the actual scrolling container is going to get this stretch effect. So you're going to have to figure out how to get all those things rendered into the same view to make sure they all get stretched at the same time.
Right, onto graphics. Android 12 adds support for a new image format called AVIF. We've added support for new formats in the past, like HEIF or WebP, and those were better than JPEG or PNG on some axes. And I believe it will be the same with AVIF. It's a single frame version of the AV1 video codec. So let's take a look at an example. This is a picture of Grand Canyon that I took. It's a JPEG that weighs about 7 megabytes. Now, if we encode this image at a specific target size, in this case 800 kilobytes, we can compare the quality of AVIF and JPEG. And you can see that AVIF looks a lot better. It's less blocky. We have less bending in the sky. So what you can do is create images that have the same size on disk and get better quality, or you can have the same quality as JPEG, but use less space on disk. So it's your choice. On top of that, AVIF supports other options. So you can do lossless compression. It has an alpha channel. It supports HDR, animated images, and 10 and 12-bit color depth. There are compressors available online, and some web browsers like Google Chrome already support this format. If you want to know more, please check out what's new in Android Media. On to videos. Android has supported the H.264 video format since, I think, the beginning of Android, but your application may not be able to support the format that we've added afterward. So, for instance, H.265 or HDR10 or HDR+. So in Android 12, we're adding the ability to automatically transcode media for applications that don't handle those newer file formats. To do that, you can create a new media capabilities XML file in your application. In that file, you list the formats that you can handle and the ones that you cannot handle. Then you point to that file in your manifest and you're done. Whenever you're going to play a video, if it's one of the formats you do not support, for instance, HDR10+, we're going to transcode it to the best available format like H.265 if you can handle it. You can also do this using APIs. So when you create a content resolver to request media, you can tell right there and then which formats you can handle and which you cannot. If you want to know more, once again, please check out what's new in Android Media.
I love it. I love that we took a situation where there were too many standards and solved it without adding another standard. It's great.
Onto audio. So there's a new feature called audio coupled haptic playback. It's a very fancy name for something that's pretty simple and quite delightful. So you can take an audio track from, let's say, a media player, and you can send it to the haptic generator. And it's going to generate vibration patterns or haptic patterns based on that audio track. So let's say if you have a game and you have an audio track with the footsteps of the main character or the sound of the rain, you can feed that to the haptic generator to automatically create these really nice vibration patterns for your user to increase immersion.
Talk about get your game on Stadia.
Will be able to do this. So you can use the easy available API on Haptic Generator to make sure that the device that the user is running on can support this feature.
I like it. It's nice in any release to have.
They're making it simple for developers to adopt.
All right, I'm going to talk about some of the other stuff going on in the platform. One of the big areas in recent releases has been privacy, as we make it possible for the user to know what's going on with their user data, and also to stop applications from accessing it when they feel that that is not necessary to them. So transparency and clarity around access to data, and making it clearer what's going on in the system and giving more control to the user.
That's great.
A couple of the areas in this release are around, first of all, location. So I talked to a developer a couple of years ago at an event back when we used to have like live events and we could actually have conversations in person. And this was a developer that had an application which would scan for nearby Bluetooth devices and then pair with them. And they were upset because their application was getting bad reviews on the Play Store because they needed the location permission in order to scan for these devices. And they did not understand, the users did not understand why the application needed it. The developer didn't understand why this permission needed to be necessary, needed to be used for their application. And in fact, we didn't either. It was just a historical way of how all of these capabilities developed. So now in Android 12, we have a new Bluetooth permission. And when you use that, you have the ability to then scan for these devices as well as connect to them without needing that location permission. So yay. Another change in the location area is it is possible for the user to say, yes, you can have my location, but not my exact location. I don't feel that you need that information. So now they can tell the system that they do not want to share their exact location, and then the application needs to deal with it. This probably means nothing for you. Best practice for this permission, as well as all permissions, is to be able to handle a situation where the user will disable it anyway, because they can always go into settings and disable that permission. And this is just an easier way for them to do that in the moments when they are requested for it. For the clipboards, it is possible for you to request data from the clipboard, but now we are going to tell the user when that is happening. So we already sort of locked this down in terms of the only apps that have access to the clipboard are the keyboard and the foreground application. But now when that foreground application actually says, okay, give me that clip data, then there will be a toast on the screen that looks something a lot like this that tells the user that the clipboard is being accessed. So the best practice for this is
nice.
You might want to query the clipboard first and see what kind of data is in there, because there's a good chance that the data is in there is not applicable to your application anyway. And then you can do the query without triggering the toast, and only when you actually request that data will the toast pop up in front of the user.
Doesn't that toast look nice?
There's the toast again. They're all over the place. Foreground restrictions. So we are
now you know what a toast
restricting some access to launching foreground restrictions from the backgrounds. This foreground restrictions end up being a real battery drain, because there's a lot of things happening in the background that trigger these things in the foregrounds. There's these notifications popping up in front of the user all the time. So there's a couple of changes that we're making. One is the notifications popping up in front of the user at all times. So a lot of these things are really limited. The application needed to run something really quickly, but it needed to be a foreground service, and therefore there would be this notification popping up for just a second or two. So now we actually delay that, so that if the notification is going to be gone within the first 10 seconds, then it's not going to appear at all. So less visual noise to the user. Also, we're generally disallowing foreground services from being launched from the backgrounds. There is a new approach that you need to take instead. So the migration path is to use this new method called set expedited. And this is a new platform method, but fortunately, we also introduced this into Work Manager in the unbundled library. So the way that you migrate off of foreground services is you call the Work Manager API set expedited, and on Android 12 and later, that will do the right thing and call the set expedited API in the platform to run, to do what it needs to do very quickly for this quick job that you needed to execute immediately. Otherwise, on previous releases, it will do what you were probably doing anyway, which is to create the foreground service that you need. So very important for privacy. You should check out the following talks that are at I/O. What's new in Android privacy, effective background tasks on Android, as well as top 12 tips to get ready for Android 12. What alliteration they're having in these talks. All right, drag and drop and copy and paste and keyboard stickers. So these all sound very similar in my mind, right? There's another application that had some data and you'd like it in your application, and this is great, except to get all three of these paths going, you basically had 3 code paths to enable, whether it got dragged and dropped onto there or copy and pasted from the clipboard, or you've got this fancy keyboard sticker. Got these 3 code paths. That's a lot of work. Maybe you didn't get to all of them, which means that not necessarily all of them work for your application. What we've done in Android 12 is collapsed all of them into a single API and code path, and now you have this on-receive content listener that you implement and then sets. And it does the right thing for all 3 of these use cases. Now you only need to implement that one thing. So the question is, well, this platform capability, what do we do on previous releases? There's a couple of things to note. First of all, there is Android X support in current builds of Android X. That is a little bit limited, so I want to explain it a little bit. For one thing, it is enabled for app compat edit text. They are looking into enabling it for other views in the future. So stay tuned for that. Also, at the time that I'm recording this, it was not plumbed all the way through the platform. So the best practice is going to be to use the Android X API, and that will go through the platform API. All the dots were not connected quite yet, but that should come online soon, and you should be able to use the Android X API. In the meantime, if you want to play with it, you may want to play with the Android platform API directly. Otherwise, long-term, use the Android X API. Not only is it going to be easier and have some of that backward compatible support, but also there are some utilities in there that make it easier to use in general than the platform API directly.
Cool.
In the performance area, really quickly, there is a new library out there that helps you benchmark your app for larger use cases like startup or scrolling list. And you should check out the measuring jank and startup with macro benchmark talk. And they're going to go into details about that new macro benchmark library that just went into alpha. Also, quickly in the where area, there's a talk, now is the time. See what they did there? What's new with where? So they're going to be talking about a couple of new capabilities for tiles, which is a new capability.
I'll probably watch that, but I'm not going to live stream share that. I'm just going to watch it on my own leisure.
UI action from your application. They're also going to be talking about the next release of where. Cool. In the Android tools area, of course, there are new releases of Android Studio all the time. 4.1 is stable. 4.2 is, I think it's stable by now. Arctic Fox is chugging along, and you should check out the following talks to learn more about all of those and more. What's new in Android development tools, what's new in design tools, and what's new in Android Gradle plugin.
We also have many new announcements to make around Jetpack and Jetpack Compose, our new UI toolkit. Unfortunately, we don't have time to cover this in this talk. So I invite you to go watch What's New in Jetpack, where you're going to learn about all the new stable versions of our libraries, the new alpha and beta versions, and also what it means for Jetpack library to be alpha, beta, or stable. If you're interested in Compose, and you should be, we have two talks for you. We have What's New in Jetpack Compose and using Jetpack libraries in Compose.
Nice.
And that is it. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for coming to our house and joining us today. And enjoy the preview release and everything going on with Android.
Thank you.
Thanks. See you soon, we hope.
Hi, you guys overextended your time by 1 minute. Greedy little guys. Anyway, so yeah, what's new in Android? That's what's new. And then, of course, for some of you guys that probably didn't have any idea what the hell they're talking about, they're actually addressing developers, those people who app developers for whatever platform, like whatever app that they develop for, right? Whatever platform, you know what I mean? So that's addressing developers for Facebook, developers for Twitter, developers for TikTok, and et cetera, and all that. I think one of the biggest takeaways with this that, I just wanted to emphasize on is just how much more simpler they have made it to adapt with Android 12, right? So with a lot of the APIs that they're talking about, instead of having to go through 2 or 3 paths to get a specific thing to execute, now it's all bundled into one, making it simple. Like when you add this API into your app, it codes in all 3, right? Making reference to what they were talking about, drag and drop, copy paste, and clipboard. So all that, being easily accessible for developers to actually develop and execute is a good thing, because one of the things that people make mention of Android is how janky and how slow it is, right? And the daily consumers out there, they're not technical with this stuff. So it's not like for instance, they mentioned about when you touch the notification shade, there's this long pause before anything happens, right? And a lot of people would be like, well, my phone is frozen, or my phone is messed up, or whatever, or Android just totally freaking sucks. This is why I like iOS. And nobody, walks up to them and says, hey, what's happening is that you touch that notification. So it sent off a command to their server, which then is going to respond to your device and launch the application. So there's this dead time in between all that happening. Like no one's going to sit there and explain that to them at a Starbucks. So by them actually alleviating this problem, knowing that this was probably one of the top causes of why people think that Android is so sluggish, and eliminating that, basically saying that if your notification does not immediately launch the application to perform the task that it needs to do and hitting said notification, then it's just not going to do anything. They're not going to allow the trampoline effect. They're not going to allow that anymore. Now it's make or break. If your app sends a notification on Android, then when that user touches it, it needs to do something right then and there. If not, they're not going to allow to have anything done anymore. And this all this happening means that the placebo effect that when you use Android 12, it's going to be faster. It's going to be faster because there's not a lot of dead time in between commands. And I think that's a great approach. It's about freaking time that they actually address these issues with Android and really have gone the distance in that. Like, hats off to them for that, because that was probably one of the things, like I've always told people, and people used to argue with me about it, like iOS is much faster, this, that, and the third. Like, it's actually not. It's just that, Apple is pretty locked down with its, development. Third-party developers have to do things exactly Apple's way, or it's no way at all. And Google has always been lax being open source. So this was a problem that, took some time for them to address, but finally got it done. And just the way that they're talking about it to the developers, to the app developers for Android, it no longer seems like a passive aggressive type thing. Now it's just like, you got to do it this way or it's no way at all. So they're kind of adopting that same attitude that Apple has. And I really got to give it up to them for that. Like, yes, Android is open source and any developer can take Android and make it their own, build a custom ROM or whatever, and do what you want to do with that. They're not taking that away from developers, but they are now starting to put their foot down and push developers that, hey, we need Android to be as fast as it is, and you guys aren't contributing to that. Yet we're hosting your stuff on our platform for the billions of users who have active Android devices. So now you have to do it our way. That is such a great way for them to approach this, and I'm so happy that they're doing that with Android 12, and just all these little things that, after listening to this, to this keynote, and just hearing what they had to say, giving a lot of options and making it so much easier for app developers, like even bonding widgets, you know what I mean? Like, you can still go and manually edit your widget to function in Android 12, but you also have to understand that it may not look or function properly like you want it to. So the best course of doing it is just to go the easier route and just have the API adapt the entire widget to what Android 12 widgets are. And that way, the only thing you got to make sure that works is the functionality of the widget itself, instead of having to do all these things of editing size, length, text, and all that other stuff within the widget itself. Everything is bondable. I love the fact that they've reached back into the past to previous Android versions, some quintessential things that we liked about Android back then that were taken away, and have brought it back and modernized it. And so that's a big, big, big plus to the developers of Android. Thank you guys so much for doing that. Really, 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 really appreciate it. You guys can hear my excitement because, yes, I am an Android fanboy. But so that's a nice touch. You know what I mean? It'll make things simple. It'll make things bondable. But I think the big overall thing here is that it'll make it cohesive. You know what I mean? Because like they said, when it comes to Android 12 and how it's going to look on, say, like a Samsung device with one UI, or a Moto device with whatever UI they decide to do, if they decide to shift away from a near stock, or maybe even on Oxygen OS, things might be a little bit different there. So when they're talking about like the color palettes, the amount of colors you have, the way you can shift with it to make your stuff function. Excuse me one sec. One sec. Oh, wait. That's the other phone, so that's not that important. Okay, sorry about that. Phone was ringing. But yeah, just seeing all the things that they're doing to make updating your app with the latest APIs to make it work seamlessly with Android 12. That's a nice touch. You can't say what the other UIs are going to do. So like a lot of the stuff that they're showcasing with Android 12, like they've made it apparent for people to understand. So like the adaptability that when you put a wallpaper on your Pixel device, because Pixel runs the stock Android, stock Android experience is Google Pixels. Okay. While people would be like, well, OnePlus should be like, stock Android. It's not. It's Oxygen OS. Okay. So it still has OnePlus's spin on it. One UI has Samsung spin on it. If you want stock Android, you're going to have to go Pixel. Pretty much that. Or you have to find a custom ROM for your Samsung device or for your OnePlus device, root, put a custom recovery on it, and flash that custom ROM on there to bring it down to an AOSP ROM. Other than that, you're stuck using whatever Samsung, OnePlus, and all of them are using. So with the stock Android experience, one of the things that they did talk about at the main keynote, and also what they brought up here in this keynote with Android, is the ability for the user interface to adapt to what the wallpaper is. Okay, so if you put up a wallpaper of a picture of your kids and say in that photo the dominant color, so and what they mean by dominant colors is like when you show a photo to somebody, like these are my kids, right? While their brain is perceiving, you know, these kids are this person's kids. But the other thing that's happening in background in your brain is that there are specific colors that are going to stand out more than all the colors that's being presented in the photo. And that's what they mean by dominant colors. And so like, let's say like, you know, you put up a picture of your kids and they're wearing like a red and black, you know, flannel outfit, right? So red and black is going to be the dominant color because it stands out from like the blue sky and the green tree and the light green grass in the background, right? Black and red is going to stand out. So a lot of the widgets is going to automatically adapt to red and black. So that's what they're talking about. And this is all being seamlessly done without you having to go in there and actually manually adjust these things. And hey, Mav, welcome. So they were talking about that, and they were talking about how they were able to develop that, because this is going to be insanely cool, right? Basically, if you know, there were 100 of us in the room right now, and each one of us got a Pixel 6, and each one of us went ahead and put a wallpaper on it, and we were to, you know, at the count of 3, flip our phones over to show what our phones look like based upon the wallpapers that we put on our phones, none of us are going to have the exact same, you know, color palettes for the widgets, for the text, for, you know, the notification shade and all that stuff. All that stuff changes, and I think that's the reason why that the Pixel 6, like I know my good friend Tony Pazzo said that, you know, we might have been duped with the Pixel 6 and like the photo representations of a triple toned back of the phone. He says he feels like that we might have been duped. He's not sure. Of course, no one's sure because you know the Pixel 6 is not out yet, so we'll know what the Pixel 6 looks like when it launches. But a lot of it is pointing to that's going to have this triple tone setup, and I think the reason why that the Pixel 6 has that triple tone setup is to kind of play into the fact of color customizations, right? So like the latest photo that's being released out that I shared on Twitter and everything like that showed 3 different color options for the Pixel 6, right? There's a blue version, there is a, you know, like a reddish pink version, and then there's a black and white version, right? So like the black and white version, the very top of the glass is a frosted black, and then, you know, you have the camera sensor, which is also a black bar itself, and then underneath it goes to like a lighter gray white. The blue one has a dark, like a more vibrant blue frosted glass on the top, black camera module underneath that, and then like a light blue text, you know, color to the back of the phone, right? So I'm thinking that, you know, that is kind of like paying homage to the fact that Android 12 is going to be doing a lot of this color swapping effects based upon the wallpaper and the operating system itself to understand dominant colors and build something to that to coincide with it. And the thing about it is when you switch to wallpaper, the color palette shifts. Now, this is something that they did say that can be turned off within settings itself. So it doesn't mean like you are stuck just having your stuff change over and over and over again just because you change your wallpaper. You can actually turn that off. That's something that is within settings that can be enabled and disabled according to them. So that is something that's pretty cool. And they're bringing this same thing to app developers to be able to have you know, their widgets and stuff like that be able to adapt, right? So like if Facebook's widget, if they wanted it to basically do the same thing that Google's widgets do, which is being able to shift its colors based upon, you know, the dominant colors perceived in the wallpaper, then they have APIs set up and for Facebook's developers to seamlessly be able to encompass this within their widget and be able to build upon that and have that feature available and enabled for Android. That is a really cool thing. So the entire keynote basically was just letting everybody know not only is Android cool as fuck, but it's also easier for developers to develop for it with the new APIs on how simple it is instead of having to have like 3 different paths, 3 different commands to be able to execute what you're trying to do with your app, with your widgets and such. And then, of course, the biggest thing, no more trampoline effect with notifications. So there's no downtime when you drop down a notification shade and it says there's something that's going on with Instagram. When you click that, there's not this dead window time where nothing happens. It actually now will launch the application itself to what needs to be done. And if the developer cannot execute something for that nature, then the notification is just not going to appear. So that's actually pretty cool. The fact that they are focusing on even the most minute things such as toast, which now a lot of people that's been watching on this will know what toast is. And that's that little thing that pops up, that little, like rectangular bubble that pops up with a little message inside of it that's letting you know what's going on, right? That is toast. And now they're shortening the time of how long toast stays on the display and just how quickly it is for it to go away. So it's not eating up time and space on your display, allowing you to be able to do the things that you need to do to stay productive within the application that you're on Android. What was the other one here? I just had it in my head, and that's because I'm thinking of so many things so fast, it's going in and out really quickly. There was another one I had to do, not with toast. Oh yeah. And then of course, picture-in-picture, the ability for that to set up, that's actually pretty cool. So like, and like, that's the reason why I was agreeing with a lot of stuff that they were saying when they were giving out scenarios, because yes, that does happen, right? Like if you were on the YouTube app and then if you were to switch over to the Facebook app, right, there would be this downtime before the picture-in-picture window setup happened, right? And now they're making that much faster by reducing downtime of executing it. Because it used to, what they said is that the picture-in-picture setup takes longer currently right now in Android and previous Android was because it waited for animations that was going on with the upcoming application to finish first before then, engaging the picture-in-picture, right? So like audio would play, you wouldn't miss anything really from the YouTube video, the audio would continue on, but the little picture window box that continues to play the video so you can watch the video and then multitask, that took a little bit of time to come up. They're now reducing the time of wait. So now that actual window will pop up even during an app's animations, to allow you to be able to still, to be able to enjoy that feature of picture-in-picture. Lastly is what a lot of people were talking about on Android Authority and 9 to 5 Google. And that was the whole thing with adding splash animations. There were splash animations built for just about every application that there is on Android. And developers like Facebook and Twitter, they can choose to use the preset animations that Google has come up with, or they can continue to use theirs, but they would have to work that out. And so that way you're not getting like a Twitter splash screen and then another Twitter splash screen as the app is launching. And the reason why they built these animations is because of what's, cold starting an application, right? So if you don't know what cold starting is, basically just think about it like this. When you power on your Android device for the first time, right? So you power it off, you stick it on the charger, you wake up in the morning, power it on, right? So Facebook is not sitting in background. You haven't gone into Facebook at all since turning on your phone, right? So when you tap on Facebook, and you can test this out yourself. When you tap on Facebook for the first time of the day, after powering on your Android device, you'll notice it takes a little bit longer for it to open up compared to like when you open up Facebook, you go through it, then you close out of the Facebook app, and then 20 minutes later, you open the Facebook app and it opens up to exactly where you were, just about, unless it ran out of RAM and it was dropped from RAM consumption, then it will actually cold start again. But if it's within the RAM, it will open up from where you last left off at. You'll notice that opening the Facebook app is much faster when it's sitting in background and running off RAM versus a cold start. And so they know this, and this is one of the things that people look at it and say, oh, Android is slow. Look how long it takes for me to open up Facebook, because it's the first time to open up Facebook in the day, and it took a little bit of time. So Android, to alleviate that, with another what's called a placebo patch, is what I like to call them. A placebo patch is that they built an animation screen. So when you touch Facebook and it's launching from a cold start, a Facebook splash animation will pop up. So it's not like it's sitting there doing nothing. There is something happening. And then that gives the Facebook app enough time to launch and execute commands to open the applications for engagement. And they're letting developers know that you can either default and use theirs, or you can build your own, or you can continue to use yours. But if you can continue to use yours, you have to disable the pathway that allows the Google splash screen for Facebook to be disabled, so you're not having two Facebook splash screens pop up. That's going to annoy the hell out of people, and people are going to think Android is buggy as hell. So that's a nice touch. But anyways, guys, that's pretty much it for this live stream and for my live stream for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed hanging out with me and watching the main keynote itself. And again, I'm still kind of bummed out. We didn't see Pixel 5a. We didn't see Pixel Watch. We didn't see Pixel Buds A. And we didn't see nothing about the GS101 chip. But obviously, Google I/O is basically for developers. It's a developers conference for software, and they laid focus to that. So the only good thing about I/O this year was that the highlight of it was basically Android 12, and that's great to know. So Anyways, guys, I appreciate y'all for being here. Maverick, Gene, thank you so much for coming through. My babe for coming through. Ray was in here first at 12:47 p.m. and I wasn't even live then. But Ray, thanks for being the early bird, man. Appreciate you for being here. And for all those who watched the replay and whatnot, hashtag Team Android, hashtag snow cone, because that is the dessert flavor for Android 12. S stands for snow cone. Thank you, Gene, so much for the $2 super sticker. Really, really appreciate it, bro. Thank you so much. And I'll probably do Chrome OS tomorrow. Actually do like a live reaction to the Chrome OS keynote, because this was a lot of fun. I like doing this. Yeah, and my inner nerd just came out just talking all this stuff. So that's really cool. But anyways, guys, y'all take it easy. Enjoy the rest of your day. Appreciate you guys for being here. I love you guys very, very much. Y'all are awesome. Stay nerdy, stay geeky. Until tomorrow. Peace.